I got a chance to play Black Ops 2 multiplayer, and it's obviously going to be one of those big games competing to pull the Halo 4 disc out of people's 360s, as well as PS3, and PC as well, I guess, although PC crowd has really turned a little bit on Call of Duty, leaving its PC roots behind. Now, one of the things that I think that they've done is they've faced, and Treyarch, let's face it, Treyarch is now the lead dog on Call of Duty, arguably. I mean, they've always had a hard road to hoe there because, originally they were trying to come out with a smaller team while tasked with other things like building Bond games and engine tools and still expected to deliver a Call of Duty experience. So they are pretty damn hardworking guys and gals over there putting together this game. And they think that kind of is reflected in their approach here to multiplayer, which is that they've taken out the slot system. So if you're accustomed to playing Call of Duty all the time, everything was based off of, I have a gun slot, I have a secondary slot, I have a tactical slot, I have perk slots. And they've gotten rid of that plan. They still have those spaces, but now they're using allocation points. And so you have 10 allocation points, and this allows you to configure your soldier to do whatever you want to, however you want to. So you could go, for instance, at one extreme, which they did have this build in there for us to play around with, of course you could configure whatever you want, all perks, no weapons, rely on a knife kill to get a gun. But once you do get a gun, you're loaded for bear because you've had extra perks because you used all of your allocation points to build up extra perks in there. Or you can do like I did, being a run-and gunner. I had an assault rifle as my primary with an ACOG, and my secondary was a submachine gun.
So I'm curious how they're actually doing that. So how do you set the number of allocation points? Is that something you level up so you can actually have more allocation points than when you start?
No, so it's a 10-point system, and they have it like in this really cool iconic system where you have like 10 blocks across the top, and every time you put something into a slot, it shows those blocks being removed.
Okay.
So you always know, I just pulled this in, it gave me 2 blocks. I just pulled this in, it pulled back 1 block. And so you can do like this crazy mix and match thing.
But you can still save them, right?
Yeah, and then you can save them. You can save all of these
different...
I was going
to say, if I had to like figure out the combination of putting it together before every match might be a little...
No, so you can save up whatever you want. So for instance, that one I was I think they had called it Guns, Guns, Guns and had it saved. So it had all of that set up like that. But my trade-off was I only had 1 perk and I had no grenades, because I had burned up all of my allocation points carrying 2 primaries plus all the attachments I had on. Because also on the assault rifle, I had an ACOG, but I also had a friend-foe identifier.
I think it's really interesting what, I play all the Call of Duty games, got a lot of friends at Treyarch and Infinity Ward. I think it's really interesting the direction they're heading in, because I think one of the things that's made Call of Duty so wildly successful is they've lowered the barrier of entry for players to actually be able to get enjoyment out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their controls are fantastic. Like the snap to aim stuff they do is subtle. Most people don't even realize that when you zoom in, the game just attaches to a character, but you don't notice it. And I think that's the best way to doing like aim assist and things like that, which you need to do a shooter on a console. But it seems like it's almost like this schism where the actual gameplay, the experience of playing it, is pretty easy to pick up and play and get the enjoyment. Put 3 bullets into a dude and he falls over dead. But at the same time, they're doing this really, really. The system you're describing is really hardcore, and I can't imagine that like someone who just we used to call them when I was in the press the Madden crowd, the people that buy like 1 or 2 games a year. It was just like Madden every year and Call of Duty and Halo and whatever, but they buy a couple of games a year. Is that crowd going to be able to? They don't. I can't imagine that they would want to really go in depth. So it has to be something that's easy to understand and be able to just instantly jump in there and be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Because if you were to accidentally make a build that was all perks, and I popped in, I didn't have a gun.
You're like, oh shit, I don't have a gun.
I would be like, this game's broken. What the hell? So I would imagine that it's really tough to actually get that communication out there to that audience, because they're not watching these web videos. And they're not listening to podcasts, to be honest.
But if you go in, so they're going to have pre-configured setup loadouts, of course.
Okay.
But then if you go in and customize, keep in mind that it still has those slots, and like the big giant slot staring you in the face is what your primary gun is. So if you don't put something in there, there's this big gaping hole in the center of your character screen. Like, oh shit, I don't have a gun. But you made a conscientious decision not to do that. I thought that was pretty cool. And then they still have fun ideas. They showed, I wish I could remember the name of this, but you remember the wager match things they had?
Oh, yeah.
So they have new variations of that. They are going to apply to your skill ups and so forth this time. The one they let us play was this deal where it's like a massive free-for-all with battle droids or battle tank, or battle, whatever you call those things.
Oh, UAV, or not UAVs, but
they're like tracked things. Yeah, robot things with tracks on them and machine guns on top.
Yeah.
And everyone starts with machine gun pistol and 1 EMP grenade, and you go out and hack the little roving turret things.
Yeah.
Turok things. The
turrets.
turret things, and get them to fight for you. And you only have one EMP. The only way to get other EMPs is to take down someone else and scavenge the EMP that they drop when you kill them. So it's this really cool chaotic thing of like chasing drones around. I guess you still call them drones, but ground drones around and trying to protect them and get other kills so you can get EMP grenades.